Hey everybody, hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Michael's Matters. Now, of course, I am Michael, and today we got the newest inflation report, or the CPI report, out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it's starting to give us a clearer picture about how this inflation is affecting folks on Social Security benefits. So that could be Social Security Retirement, Social Security Survivor, Social Security Disability SSDI, as well as VA and Railroad Retirement Benefits, which are attached to the CPI. But moreover, it also gives us an idea of exactly how effective this year's COLA of 8.7% really is, or isn't, helping seniors deal with the increasing cost of living that we are all feeling. Furthermore, it gives us a trend line to try to figure out and make a guess at what the COLA could be for next year. So today we are going to be looking at the current inflation numbers, how those compare against the Social Security COLA that everyone got this year, and how much of a COLA could be in store for seniors next year if everything stays changing at the same rate. Now, before we get into this video, if you like these videos, if you find them helpful, if you find them useful, or hey, if you at least find them interesting, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And that way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. All right, now, let's get down to the video. So here we are mid-month, and we got the newest inflation numbers out from the BLS, or the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who are the government folks who do these kinds of things, and they show how much exactly costs have gone up for the general public and how much these costs actually went up for older Americans. So let's jump in with the general numbers first, and they show for April 2023 the cost of goods went up by 4.9% in comparison to April 2022. This is actually pretty good considering last month, in March, the inflation rate was a bit higher at 5%, so it dropped down just a little bit. Some of the key reasons why these numbers have dropped down is because of the cost of things like gasoline went down by 20.2%, which is pretty massive. Also, major appliances, they went down, not by the same amount, but 3.2%, as well as used vehicles also went down by 6.6%. Now, it's also super important to remember that how inflation was calculated, it did get adjusted at the beginning of this year, so for 2023. So those April inflation numbers that we're using from 2022, they use a slightly different calculator than it used for 2023 that we're seeing right now. So it's not exactly 100% apples to apples, but it sure does make the numbers look better. Did anyone say election year? And so far, the numbers are looking better, at least in general. Inflation overall is heading in a downward direction, but this downward trend may ultimately have an effect on how much money seniors will get when this year's cost of living adjustment, or COLA, ends up happening. These general inflation numbers that we just talked about are based off an index called the CPIU. But really, the one that we want to focus on, the one that's super important for us regarding Social Security, is another index that also comes out in the same report, which is called the CPIW, which is something that a lot of folks don't actually talk about. You won't really see it on the news that often, which is the Consumer Price Index for all urban clerical workers. So first, CPI, a Consumer Price Index, what is that? Well, the BLS calls it a measure of the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a market basket of consumer goods and services, end quote. Which it means is it is a collection, or in this case, rather, a basket of goods. So things like toothpaste and transportation and cars and housings, eggs, etc., kind of everything that people spend their money on. And the BLS looks at how much each of these goods cost a year ago and then compares them to how much they cost now. And that gives them these inflation numbers. In this case, from April 2022 to April 2023. But these baskets of goods are not all the same. The CPIU is different than the CPIW. One big difference is that the CPIW tends to be a little bit lower than the CPIU overall. So if I was to put my tinfoil hat on, I would imagine the reason why they attach Social Security benefits to the CPIW and not to the CPIU is because it's less expensive overall. Now again, CPIW is that metric that is most important to Social Security beneficiaries because it is the one that is used to calculate the yearly cost of living adjustment, or COLA. The amount of inflation shown in the CPIW for 3 months of August, September, and October every year are what is used by Social Security to actually calculate the COLA. So we can see what a COLA would be right now if it was calculated, and use the current data to try to make a guess at what the COLA will be coming third quarter. As a side note, by the way, the Senior Citizens League of America, a nonpartisan advocacy group, is guessing, according to their kind of internal calculations that the COLA for 2024 will be at 3.1%. So there's still a ways to go till we get there. But when we look at the CPIW, we are essentially peering into the heart of what the COLA could be. Now, for the months of April, the CPIW inflation was lower than the general inflation number at 4.6%. But instead of going down, it is actually rising. That's because last month in March, it was 0.1% lower at 4.5%. So it went from 4.5 in March to 4.6 in April. What this means is that while overall general inflation is actually going down, inflation for urban clerical workers, or the CPIW, is going up, which is a good thing for folks on Social Security because it will mean that there's a likelihood of getting a higher COLA when it's all calculated out in Q3. Now, if we look at the CPIW since the beginning of the year, we can see that it went from 6.3% in January down to 5.8% in February, and then down to 4.5% in March, but it went back up in April to 4.6%. So if Social Security were to take the 3-month average for February through April right now, it means the COLA for 2024 would come out at 4.9%. That is down from last month if we did the same calculation hypothetically, where it would have been at 5.53% increase. So we want to put that into potential dollars and cents amounts for the average person on Social Security who gets the average Social Security check, which we know according to Social Security is at $1,750.18 a month. It means that the COLA increase of 4.97% would give the average beneficiary a $86.93 increase, which would make the average monthly Social Security check for 2024 come out to $1,837.11, at least if we're looking at it at this point in time. So that's not too bad, but it's still going to be $9.92 less than last month when we made the same calculation for those first 3 months of data that we had, where Social Security benefits would have gone up by $96.84 instead, or with an average check of $1,847.02. So it's about, $10 less. Ultimately, what this tells us is that the Senior Citizen League, who did their analysis and made an estimation that the COLA increase for 2024 with current day's information could be around 3.1%, they seem pretty reasonable if the inflation trend keeps going along this downward overall trend. But right now, with the CPI going up and the CPU going down, it could mean that seniors get a COLA that will be a little bit more outsized than general inflation, which would give them a bit tiny more purchasing power, which ultimately would be good. So overall, looking at the way things are going, a couple things seem apparent. First, Congress and the White House need to get their act together and figure out how to prevent a government shutdown that would really be catastrophic for the millions of seniors, older Americans, and retirees who rely on their Social Security checks to make ends meet. That is non-negotiable, and full stop. But more so, something needs to be done about how the COLA is calculated. There's a reason why so many of our older friends, neighbors, and family members, they're not able to live their lives out in dignity during their golden years. And it's because of this outdated, outmoded calculator that needlessly makes their lives harder. The saddest part is, and probably the most frustrating part about this all, is that these things, they could be fixed, but they would likely take a literal act of Congress. And when we're at a time when Congress can't figure out whether they should or should not pay our bills, the appetite to make large, expensive, and necessary adjustments to one of our most important programs, one of our most popular programs ever since, bread and circuses, it will be our grandparents, our parents, our uncles, our aunts, and the people who we care about who are going to end up suffering the most until they do it. All right, so that's it for today's Michael's Matters, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, if you like these videos, if you find them helpful or useful, or hey, if you at least find them interesting, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. So for Michael's Matters, I'm Michael, hoping that you take care of yourselves, take care of others, and have a happy, healthy